The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WPSL. However, we are the ones who encourage you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends, especially the program coming on right now, The Weekend Warrior. Welcome back to the studio, Sue Ellen Sanders.
Weekend Warrior.
Well,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Who else gets their show aired 4 times
I
over the
know.
weekend,
That makes me a warrior, I
Yes,
guess.
absolutely.
Yes, it does. So if you are listening to this on the weekend, then you may be driving in your car, you may be listening at home, or you may be watching the replay on YouTube, because our good friend Cliff will play the show, will record the show, and then place it on our YouTube channel, because we have WPSL TV. We have our own YouTube.
There's a whole playlist of
There's a
just
whole-
Sue Ellen Sanders shows.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
You
I
go in
did.
there and you hit playlists and wow, you could binge
Sometimes
watch.
I use it when I want to sleep at night. No. I don't. No, if anything, it's a good resource of information for you. And of course, this show is meant to be a resource of information for you as well. So I indeed am back in the studio, even though we continued to do the radio show, we did it by Zoom. I know all of us have a little bit of Zoom fatigue going on, and I was so excited when I got the heads up that I could come back to the studio and be here in the studio with the gang and with my guest. And I'm so thrilled that my first back in studio guest is a woman I've known for a number of years with a lot of different hats on. Veronica Kolobab. Kolobab.
That's it.
Like Kolababe,
Yes.
only Kolobab.
Exactly.
Okay. She is a certified integrative nutrition health coach. That's a mouthful.
It is.
And she, if you met her, you may have met her through the Chamber of Commerce, because she's like you were Ambassador of the Year this year, right?
Yes, I was actually.
So, but this probably is not the first time you were Ambassador of the Year, was it?
I've been Ambassador of the Month several
Oh.
times, but not of the year. That was a
Ooh.
nice victory this
So
year.
that is really exciting, especially in such a challenging year.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyhow, if you go to Chamber of Commerce breakfast, or if you go to any of the after hour events, then you probably know Veronica. And she's a healthy eater, but she's such a happy person. And I wonder, are those two connected?
Actually, yes.
That was a surprise little lead-in, wasn't it?
It is, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
People don't ever think of mindset when they think about healthy and being healthy. And that's what integrative nutrition is about. It's really about not just the food on our plate, but all of the things that we consume. So whether it's what we're watching on TV, what we're listening to in music, people we associate with, if we're, all of that affects our mood, which affects our mental state, which affects our health.
And I will admit that I've been in advertising and PR all my life, so you would think that I would be skeptical of ads I saw on TV, because there was a point in my life where I helped to write that type of advertising, only for radio. But it's just the opposite is true, especially as you see more and more ads. And I watch some of the TV programs that might be geared toward those of us that are a little bit older. A friend of mine called us dinosaurs the other day, and that's a little extreme.
Dinosaurs.
But those of us who are seasoned professionals, I like that
much
better. I'm always watching those ads, and I hear in the background the woman saying, I all of a sudden I have so much energy, and I'm like, okay, buy that. And all of a sudden I feel better. Okay, I'll buy that. And I have always been someone who understood that a healthy lifestyle included a balance of food and exercise and things that make you happy.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about how you've balanced that type of lifestyle and it's turned into your thing.
Yeah. Well, I originally got really sick from an unbalanced lifestyle.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. About probably a little over 10 years ago, I was told that I had candida in my stomach, which is a overgrowth of the yeast in the microbiome.
Right.
And mine had gotten so bad, apparently, that I was probably on my way to some kind of a deadly cancer because it
Ooh.
was a W. kind of candida, which only people who have or a deadly cancers usually have that kind of candida. So it was really bad. And they said, oh, you'll never heal that strain without taking diflucan medication and antifungal. I was like, I don't want to do that.
What were some of the symptoms that you had that made you know that you had that?
Well, I couldn't. There were so many symptoms. This is why doctors don't look for candida, because not only did I have the bloating and the digestive issues, but I had like brain fog, joint pain. My body just ached everywhere. Memory issues. There were just so many dynamics that went into that condition, like so many symptoms that created that condition.
So did you have to go to a lot of different doctors before they figured out what was the problem?
Yeah, I actually went to several doctors and spent a small fortune, even with insurance, to end up at a holistic practitioner who was the one who actually found it.
And
So-
a holistic is somebody who addresses the whole body, the mind and the body as a whole, instead of the symptoms. They address the cause of something.
Yes, they want to get to the root of that problem.
Now, a caveat here. This is not a health and medicine show.
No.
So I am by no means the expert on anything health, but I have an obsessive personality, basically. So when I was a runner, and I still am an occasional runner, but I was a long distance runner, and I was running 2 marathons a year or
Wow.
multiple 5Ks every other weekend. And that was my whole lifestyle. And that was all I did other than my work life. That was my whole weekend and my nights and everything, because I have an obsessive personality.
Yeah.
So anything I do that I enjoy, I always think that more has got to be better. I don't want you to think that I am like a really healthy person, because the way I feel about running is the same way I feel about ice cream.
Exactly.
So
That's awesome.
and there was a time. Were you in Florida during the 2004 hurricanes?
Yeah.
Okay. When everything melted down in the refrigerator, when we were out of power for 3 weeks, I cannot tell you the amount of ice cream and sherbet and ice cream bars that melted in my freezer. The pretty different colors that oozed out at the bottom of the refrigerator.
You didn't try to eat them up real quick?
No. And it was funny because back in those days I was writing a weekly family column for the Tribune. And so I had little kids at the time, and I wrote, I thought it was a helpful to-do list of what to do when a hurricane is approaching. And number one on the list was first, eat all the ice cream.
That's
So,
at the top of the list.
Yeah,
so you don't lose all
yeah.
that
So
ice
anyhow, so I digress though. I'm talking about obsession because I also obsessed about trying to teach my children healthy eating and lifestyle habits, to the extent that I may have created a situation where as soon as they got their driver's license and they were 16, their first trips were through the drive-thru at McDonald's.
Oh, no.
So sometimes there's too much of a good thing. And, there's no way to get that balance by being obsessive about any one thing.
No. I have a very balanced diet. Like, I'm not a lot of people think I'm vegan just because I do eat very healthy, but if you're ever on my page, there's all kinds of proteins on my page. Like, I eat every kind of protein as long as it's organic or doesn't have any hormones and things added to it. But I'm not by any means, and everybody has their days. Like, if I want French fries, I go have French fries. And I post, look, I had French fries today, because I think that people need to know that there is no perfect diet. You know what I mean? And another part of integrative nutrition is that everybody's body is so uniquely different. So you might be able to eat strawberries. I might be allergic to strawberries. Like, one man's food is another man's poison.
Right.
Beans might affect someone very badly, and they might affect another person very well. So it's really a trial and error with your diet, no matter what you're deciding to eat.
So you do have you brought up your page. You do have a page, and you do actually have a lifestyle company, so to speak, called Eating with V.
Yeah.
And you do a podcast, or you're getting ready to do a podcast as part of it. But one thing that caught my attention was that you take some traditional foods and you do untraditional things with them.
Yes, I do.
So some of the foods that people might not realize that you could make taste like dessert, you make taste like dessert.
Oh, yeah. Like the avocados for the chocolate mousse.
Right. What a surprise. Chocolate mousse with avocados.
We brought you some treats anyways today.
Okay. So if you're listening to this on the radio, we're going to describe what's coming out of her little bag here.
This one is a coconut macaroon. Now, all of my foods are gluten, dairy, and sugar-free, and most of them are grain-free.
So what do you put in them instead to make them taste good?
A lot of things that I use, well, as far as sweeteners go, it's generally monk fruit sweeteners or erythritol mixed with monk fruit, which is the new thing. All of my sugars are tested by a kinesiology doctor, so I make sure that anything that I use, it tests well.
Why monk fruit?
Because it doesn't have a glycemic load. Generally, they're coming from plants. Like, my erythritol comes from pears and apples in France, but it has no glycemic load to the body. Which is
what does that mean?
It means how quickly the blood sugar rises.
Okay, so if you are a pre-diabetic or a diabetic, this is something you definitely want to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a good chunk of our population today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got to tell you a quick side note on diabetics and pre-diabetics. So, so I had COVID vaccine COVID. So I was sick as a dog for like a month. Did not go to the hospital, but all my food tasted different. I was really, really sick. And I started taking a lot of extra vitamins that I hadn't taken in the past, including regular vitamin C and zinc and D3 and a few other things. And when I was really sick, one of the things that really hurt was my throat. So it hurt to swallow pills. So the bottom line is all my vitamins were gummies. All of them were gummies.
Full of sugar.
So when I went to the doctor, and I've continued on with all these gummy vitamins. So instead of, having to have candy, I'm like popping all these gummy vitamins every day. And, it's really yummy because that's what they're designed to be. So I had gone to my regular doctor, and she sent me just for a regular screening blood test, and it came back where my sugars were really high. And so the doctor's office called me and they said, you may be, it looks like you're pre-diabetic. We're going to have to send you for these other tests. And then the other tests came back, and the hemoglobin is what they have to taste for. And I'm not pre-diabetic. But I figured out, I took those vitamins and lined them up and looked at the amount of sugar in each of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I was ingesting like 15 to 20 grams of sugar daily in my gummy vitamins
Just
alone.
from the gummies. That's not
Just-
counting all the hidden sugar and everything else you're eating.
Right, not even counting any ice cream or anything else.
Right, none of the other things.
So my point is, you may think you're doing something that is healthy, and I certainly thought that my gummy vitamins were healthy because they were vitamins, right?
Sure,
But-
absolutely. That's what they want us to think.
Yeah, but
You were taking in probably almost 4 teaspoons of sugar a day just in your
in
vitamins.
gummy vitamins.
At least you figured it out. I
Well,
mean,
I did, and it took me. I picked up the one. I even my regular multivitamin was gummy, and I picked it up and I looked at it, and it was like, 3 grams of sugar, and and then I lined up. I had some in the upstairs bathroom, some in the master bathroom, some in the downstairs bathroom, some in the kitchen. I lined them all up, and I went,
you start adding it up. It's not fun.
So there are a lot of foods that you may think that you're eating really healthy, and they're not at all. So, but even some fresh fruit too. You
of
can
the
overdo
fruits-
it with fruit.
Absolutely. Like the bananas, diabetics can't even have bananas because
Really?
they're so high in the sugar level. Yeah, because that sugar is still sugar. So whether it's a digestible, usable sugar or not, it's still sugar. So there's some fruits. Now the low glycemic fruits, all the berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, kiwi are low glycemic. Green apples are low glycemic. So
Green but not red.
yeah, the red apples are well, you notice
Why?
the green's a little more bitter.
Yes. Okay.
And the reds are so much sweeter.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a different sugar content in those apples. Apples are still better than, say, mangoes and bananas or
So
watermelon.
mangoes and bananas and watermelon
Yeah.
are the highest.
Well, they're pretty high.
Sure.
The bananas are the highest.
Okay.
Yeah, the others are up there pretty high. Pineapples are high.
They taste so good though.
Even oranges are high.
Wow. So how did you get started in this direction? Let's back up just a little bit because I
Yeah.
skipped right over that. How did you get started? I know we talked about that you had some health concerns, and then we kind of moved on from there.
That's because we're having so much fun talking.
Well, we are, and it's a great little chat. But so they figured out what you had,
Yes.
and
When I decided to heal it naturally,
yes.
was where everything came off my plate at one time. So I.
What do you mean everything came off your plate?
Everything came off the
It was
plate.
like you had an empty plate?
I had an empty plate.
Oh, my
I was in
goodness.
tears. I
Yeah.
was in the grocery store, like in tears, going, "Oh my God, I can't eat anything." But I couldn't have anything with gluten, which was a lot of things
Yeah.
back then. I mean,
And
now
especially back then, you couldn't find gluten-free
no,
anything.
It's
yeah.
much better
Yeah.
now, but the gluten-free things are filled with sugar.
Ooh.
So I couldn't have any gluten, dairy, sugar, no sugar of any kind. That meant no fruit, no corn, no peas, no carrots, like nothing that converted to sugar. No
Peas are so good too.
no rice, no carbs of any kind. So no
So what could you eat?
no caffeine, no alcohol, no citric acid, which is in everything.
Right.
So that's why I was in tears. So I had to figure it out. It was either I'm going to stay sick forever, or I'm going to have to take the diflucan, or I'm going to figure it out. And so I figured it out. But it was, primarily proteins and vegetables. And I had to learn how to convert recipes to make the comfort foods. The avocado
Yes, all
chocolate
the
mousse,
white foods.
for the breads, the
Yeah.
avocado mousses,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Do you know what I had for lunch today?
What?
I'm ashamed to tell you.
What did you have?
A leftover tapioca pudding.
Good for you. If I had a recipe, I would convert it, and then you wouldn't have to feel guilty about eating it.
And you need to find a recipe for it because tapioca pudding. I don't think tapioca in itself is necessarily the thing that's bad for you. It's the sugar and
it's
everything.
starchy,
Yeah.
but it's not like eating 4 teaspoons of sugar in every pudding cup.
But tapioca pudding is comforting to me because of the texture. I'm all about the texture.
I'm taking notes.
Okay. so well, the basic food likes and dislikes. You like crunchy things, you like salty things, you like sweet things. What's the other one? There's
There's bitter, like sour.
Sour. And so that's why sometimes we can't reach our cravings because we may be eating something sweet when really what our body is craving for is something salt. But also those textures, that like the texture in tapioca, the the textures can be negative too. Like I will not touch bologna. I know it's not good for you anyhow, so I might as well not.
Food, yeah.
But Vienna sausage, bologna, any of that stuff, because of the texture. The
Yeah.
texture is like mush.
Yeah. I'm like that with cooked tomatoes. I'm like, ugh. I just can't do
Yeah,
cooked
I'm not a fan of cooked tomatoes either. And I also don't like my bread products or whatever type of bread it is touching a gravy.
Yeah. it's
So
like
I
it's
don't like
mushy.
that mush. I
Yep.
don't like that mush.
Oh, I'm with you on that one.
Okay. So, but, people, especially if they've lived a few years and cooked for a family or cooked for a loved one or cooked for themselves, they, they've kind of taught themselves a little bit about what the family likes, what you like, how to meet the cravings. And I would say not just with gluten-free stuff, but with all stuff nowadays. You can open your cabinet and say, well, I have this, this, and this, and put those ingredients in your Google search and come up with a recipe of
yeah.
what you could do with them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's no shortage of recipes on how to eat healthy. I think people, a lot of times, it may be overwhelming. You know what I mean? That there's so much information, and there's a lot of conflicting information when it comes to nutrition. So someone will say, oh, I did the keto diet, I lost 15 pounds, so everybody should go on the keto diet. Well, that's not necessarily the case. The keto diet could be very dangerous for some people. You know what I mean? So there's no one size fits all when it comes to a person's lifestyle and dietary habits.
What about the things that are advertised or anecdotal, where people say, well, if you you may remember back in the days of the grapefruit diet, and they still say if you eat a grapefruit with every meal, something
fat.
about it. So does it really burn
It's supposed
fat?
to burn fat, yeah. But not everybody can eat grapefruits. You know what I mean? Some people don't like grapefruits.
Hey, so where do grapefruits go on that sugar scale?
Grapefruits are not as high as, the mangoes and pineapples and things like that. Oranges surprisingly are, but grapefruits aren't really as sweet as an orange either. You can kind of tell by the taste of the
By the level
of
of
the
how
fruit.
sweet it
There's
tastes.
actually a glycemic, like if you search online for the glycemic, I didn't bring one with me, but it tells you the actual glycemic load of the fruits. So you can go glycemic load of fruit, put it in your Google search, and it'll bring up a list, where that you can actually keep on your computer or print up, that will show you how each fruit affects the blood sugar levels.
You were talking about how people's bodies are all different, and so depending on what food you eat, what allergies you have, what makes it so that some people can, and this used to drive my son crazy, because he had a best friend in high school and in college who could eat crap all the time, nonstop, and still be as thin as can be. And
That was me back in the day.
You
Like
could-
in my 20s, I could eat, forget it. I'd sit there with a, bag of pretzels and a block of cheese and eat the whole, just eat that, or eat cookies and crap and candy. And I mean, I did that. We grew up on that. I mean, grandparents gave us
Great.
what do you call them? Peanut butter cups and Hershey Kisses all the time, and Tasty Cakes had come out.
it's
and so
tasty
we-
cakes,
and,
yeah.
oh, we grew up on all of that.
Whoopie
stuff.
pies and
All the junk, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to eat all, and I never gained
Little
any weight.
Debbie.
But what happens is you could be skinny on. They call that like skinny on the outside, fat on the inside.
Uh-huh.
So you have the same innards as a person who's obese, except that your body is thin. So you still have that same risk for heart disease, the same risk for diabetes, and all of that, because your body just doesn't show it on the outside the way maybe your metabolism burns it off, but you can still be fat on the inside even if you're thin on the outside.
So it's not just about your appearance.
Mm-mm.
It's about your
Not at
body's
all.
health.
Not all thin people are healthy.
Right. And
And
I know
not all obese
isn't there a
people are-
word like skinny fat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They call it
descriptor.
they call it
Wait,
skinny as S.
there's something like
skinny,
that.
Skinny on the outside, fat on the inside is what they call it. And it was like they showed you on a I forget which documentary that one was, but there's several really great documentary. I love that sugar film because when they talk about heart disease and they talk about diabetes and all these conditions, it's generally from the sugar. You know, it's not from the fat. Our body really needs the fat for our brain to function and for other things to function properly.
Our body needs fat.
It needs fat. The same way
But
it
is
needs
it a
some
specific
carbs.
kind of fat?
Yeah, not,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
crap fat. We're
Yeah.
talking about like avocado fat and nut fat and oils, healthy oils, olive oil, coconut oil, you know, extra virgin, of course, on those oils. But yeah, our body needs
Okay,
those things.
let me just stop you there because I never did really understand it. When you go to the store and you have all those olive oils lined up, and one is extra virgin and one is extra virgin and one is extra light, what does that mean?
They're like less refined, so that extra virgin olive oils are the best olive oils to get. And they're doing a lot
So
of...
when they say virgin, they mean untouched.
It's-
Oh, duh! Sorry. So, okay, I'm going to be standing in Publix now, looking at the olive oil,
Picking
going,
out
I
her
get
oil.
it now.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, they're much better for you. Unrefined, like I get my coconut oil unrefined too. I don't want them. There's too much refining going on in our food supply for my liking. So
How does having the refining going on in our food supply affect our bodies?
well, if you think about, let's pretend like we live in nature and we're living off the land, right? Our body actually knows how to process these foods that come from nature. So the fruit is perfect. You know, we eat the fruit, it's got the fiber, it's got everything that we need for our body. It fills us up. You know, same with avocado, this fruit, it's got the good fats. When they start taking food and taking all the nutrients out of them and then enriching them, you know, they're putting nutrients back in. I don't feel enriched at all when you've molested my food so much that my body's going, how do I even eat this? How do I digest it? And it's like with, say, corn. Let's talk about the corn, right? So they've created this corn that's its own pesticide. So they genetically modify the corn. It's now its own pesticide. So the bugs, actually the stomach just blows up because that's how this pesticide kills the bugs, blows up their stomach. Well, if you think about today, what is the majority of problems, challenges, health issues that people are having today? It's stomach issues.
Stomach issues.
So
yeah.
your corn is here and your corn is hidden there and your corn is hidden everywhere with all the GMO, with this pesticide grown into it. And then we wonder why people are so sick today. And same thing with the wheat. They destroyed the wheat probably 40 years ago to where like the wheat is now this dwarf wheat. Wheat used to be, 7 or 8 feet high. It actually grew itself and then they modified the wheat now. So you have this little dwarf wheat that they can grow a whole bunch of. And how does our body, digest these things that are foreign? It's not really a natural product. You know what I mean?
So you want to look for natural products and you want to look for natural ingredients in the things that you create at home. What about the whole thing with whole wheat? Because for a while it was like everybody was eating everything whole wheat or whole grain. And then we discovered there was actually some sugar in a lot of the whole wheat products.
Oh, yeah. They put sugar in everything. I teach a class, a hidden sugar and label reading class.
Well, where do you teach it?
I actually just taught one for the Fort Pierce Women's Club. I had 20 women in the room.
So you'll go out to organizations and teach?
Yes.
Cool.
Uh-huh. And I mean, I do charge for the class.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
you're teaching them.
yeah, and I do bring out like depending on if they want that class, I will bring out like it's things for them to sample so they can understand that, you know, you can eat food that tastes good. It just doesn't have to hurt your body the way those particular foods do. But the women were so engaged. I mean, it's a good 1 hour presentation easily, and it went much longer because they were very engaged. They had questions and, you know, a lot of things that they didn't know, and I think it helped a lot.
Well, before we go any farther, I know people are probably listening to this and going, okay, so how do I get this information? And we're going to continue talking about it looks like you have other things in your goodie bag, and we're going to talk about some of the other foods, but just to let you know, we're talking to Veronica Kalibab, and she is a certified integrative nutrition health coach, and she has started a method called Eating with V, and that's gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, grain-free. And you're probably listening to this and saying, well, then it's free of taste. But we're going to find out. We're going to do a little bit of a taste test here. So you can reach her. You can look on Facebook, Eating with V, or you can reach her on Instagram, Veronica_Eating with V, or you also have a website that is Eating with V.
It's coming out. We're working on the website right now, so we're looking at about maybe a week out.
Okay. So there are a lot of different ways that you can get some of this information. So this is like your little coconut macaroon thing. And
That's the
we're just going to, because one of my issues with things that are good for me, and as you said, is that they don't always taste very good. So.
Yes, ma'am. That one, I actually make my own sweetened condensed milk first before I make the coconut, because it's a non-dairy, sugar-free sweetened condensed milk. So
this is like eating fresh coconut.
Isn't that yummy? And it's organic coconut, unsweetened coconut in there. And then this is a chocolate. I put quinoa puffs into it. So quinoa, it's almost like a Nestle Crunch, a healthy Nestle Crunch.
Does anything have guava in it?
No.
Okay, because I'm allergic to guava.
Oh,
and
no,
as
no.
we sit here,
Oh, yeah,
I would be like,
I don't
going
use
into
guava for anything, no.
But everybody is now. Have you noticed? It's a big.
Because they sweeten with it.
So this looks like a little bit like a Nestle's Crunch Bar. And it's got the whole texture thing going on.
It's made with cocoa butter, organic, food-grade cocoa butter. That's how I was finally able to get it shelf stable, because I was making it with coconut oil, but it couldn't be shelf. It couldn't.
So
be
shelf stable, meaning it wouldn't stay for long. Yeah.
Right. Well, no, room temperature.
Oh, you would have to refrigerate it.
Yeah,
otherwise.
they would melt when they were made with the coconut oil. They're delicious with the coconut oil, but they do melt. And then this is like a grain-free granola. So it's all nuts and seeds. Also used the cocoa butter, the organic cocoa butter, so that I could keep it to where it wouldn't melt.
Well, that's something else that there's so many hidden sugars in, is a store-bought granola.
Oh, there's a ton. And just because something says natural or healthy on the bag definitely doesn't mean that it is. And if they go to the back, and I'll give everybody a tip on sugars. So for every 4 grams of sugar that you see on a package, it is actually a teaspoon of sugar. So a lot of these, like cereal, and I do this in my class, the cereal, they say it's like 3/4 of a cup is a
serving, right?
Which if you put out a regular cereal bowl, it's like microscopic amount. That's not, we eat at least double that. So whatever number you see on the back of that box, you have to double all of the numbers on the label, because you're doing, and how many kids eat that gargantuan bowl of cereal?
The big bowl, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were kids, we did that. We were just like, right
My husband still does. I try to hide the big bowls. So I have these cute little bowls that I serve things like ice cream or pudding or cereal or something in. And that way I feel like logistically you could fill that bowl and feel like you're getting a lot because it's overflowing,
right,
but it's a really little bowl.
Right.
So he just like reaches in the back and gets the other bowls.
They don't want to have to come
all
back.
right, give me the soup bowl, because
Fill it
I'm
up
not
again.
using that. My sister just moved in with us for a little while, and I was serving something in those bowls, and she goes, "What are those? Like a little finger bowl?"
People are so used to
No.
these huge serving sizes, and I'm telling you, like, ever since, and I've been eating healthy like for a long time, and I still eat crap once in a while. They came out with gluten-free Oreos. Of course, I had to try them out, double stuff, but it's a rare occurrence that I eat that stuff. But I remember
How are the gluten-free Oreos?
they're delicious,
Yes,
actually.
okay.
Oh yes, they are
Okay.
very. I stay away from them as much as possible. But I noticed that we're so we're accustomed to because we used to have to eat everything on our plate, so we're accustomed to
Clean
this.
Plate Club.
Yeah, the
right?
gigantic plate of food, and now like a little piece of protein. I do some maybe cauliflower mashed potatoes. I have my salad. I'm stuffed because when I eat food that actually fuels my body, I like eat to live, right? I don't live to eat. So I used to live to eat. Oh, when I go out to this restaurant, I can't wait to have these creamy, yummy sauces and this big mountain of food. And that's just not who I am anymore.
But the whole idea of in a lot of restaurants you go to, the serving size they serve is way bigger than a serving size too. And I remember somebody telling me once that one good way is if you're being served something really yummy and it's a really big portion, is to kind of set yourself a demarcation, where you're going to take the rest home.
Yeah.
And you're going to eat this other half. So you can have a lot of the foods, unless you have a specific disorder, you can have a lot of foods, but in moderation. The problem is that people don't moderate.
Right. They eat the whole serving. And plus, if they're eating foods that are not nutrient dense, they're going to remain hungry.
The speed of eating too. A lot of times the people I know who eat faster consume more because they're still eating before their stomach or their head is able to send that message, "Hey, I'm full." Right. They're still eating. And I have an issue that, okay, when I have popcorn, I eat it. I don't do this to be obnoxious. I really don't, although it drives the people in my family crazy. I eat one kernel at a time because I love my popcorn, but I also like the way it tastes in my mouth, and I like the way that it crunches. And so I want, and I'm not, I certainly don't eat my chocolate like that, but I do eat my popcorn like that. And
The
so
chocolate goes down quicker.
yeah, back in the day we used to go to the movies, if my husband and I shared a popcorn, I always tried to make sure that we poured some in my own little bag, because there's those popcorn eaters that just eat popcorn like a handful at a time. I'm like, are you swallowing it? I mean,
yeah. They do that with food too. So they're
Yeah.
barely chewing the food, and then it goes into the stomach, and then the stomach has to work harder because they're not really chewing up the food.
But of course, there's the other extreme too. There's the people who have true eating disorders that, okay, I have to chew my food 50 times before I swallow it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, or I've even seen people back when I was in college. So that was quite some time ago. But there were always a lot of girls who would chew yummy food up and then spit it out before they swallowed it, so they wouldn't gain any weight. Mm-hmm. And that's really scary to think that you might go through life without truly having that healthy balance.
Yeah. Well, they're so obsessed with their body, and 9 times out of 10 they're already thin and they have a beautiful body. So, and that's part of integrative nutrition too, is it goes beyond their physical into the mental state, right? Because integrative nutrition is about your work environment, your relationships, your food, your career. You could be in the best relationship with your husband and love everything about your life, but if you hate the job you go to do every day, you could still be sick.
I remember, so it was probably like 15 years or so ago when I was working at the Tribune, and there was a some type of training that we went through where we had that big circle and we had to color in the different areas of the circle, the quadrants. And then you had those 4 different quadrants: the work, the home, the...
There's more than that now.
Yeah. Are there more
Integrative
than...
nutrition? Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's about home cooking and, relationships, obviously, your career, your home environment. If you hate where you live, creates stress and it can make you sick. There's actually a really neat, people can actually go to an online place and do the actual test for themselves free. And it's at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That was actually the school that I attended and graduated from. And if you go to Institute for Integrative Nutrition and type in, Circle of Life, it's called the Circle of Life.
Okay. So the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Yep,
go to Circle of Life. And then you could take this little test.
Right online, they can do it, yeah.
There are some things in our life, though, that are like that we can't change. And actually, that probably makes us even, I would think, more unhappy thinking about those things that we can't change. So really, you have to concentrate on the things that you can control and change.
Well, the things that we can control, yes, but there's nothing that we can't change, right? In our mind especially. So if we change our perception, if you choose to stay in an unhealthy relationship, then you need to change your perception on the relationship, right? Or you leave. So if you say, I can't leave, everyone can leave. There are options. I'm just using the relationship as the thing.
Right.
So you can leave. It's not easy to leave. I've been there, done that. You can leave. So we can either change the circumstance or we have to change the way we view it, the way we think about it, and the way we react to it.
And anybody who's been in a long-term relationship knows that some of the things that you most fell in love with of your husband 30 years ago are probably the same things that are now like, oh my God, can you believe he does that? It's not cute when he falls asleep on the couch watching TV and then wakes up and says, what happens in the last 10 minutes?
Sounds like a personal experience.
No.
I'm kidding. Yes. No, but that stuff starts aggravating you.
Yeah, but it is perception. If you have in your head, those are the things that there's an issue with. But if you kind of make it into where it's cute again and funny, and like if you're picturing yourself telling about it. What I have found, being in communication all those years, is a lot of different things in my life. If I write about them and talk about them, it kind of takes the sting out of them.
Sure.
Then
writing
they become
can be healing too. That could be very healing.
Then they become a funny anecdote instead of something that I focus on and can't move on from.
Or focus on the things that you're grateful for in that person. So maybe the snoring makes you super mad, but think about the way that he opens the door for you.
Oh,
or how, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if they can shift it, if a person can shift into gratitude from whatever. So that makes you mad, but find 5 things that you really are grateful for in that person.
Well, and we're talking to Veronica about eating with Vi, but V. I don't know why I want to call it Vi.
I don't know.
It just seems like
just my letter V.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's got that flourish. But integrative nutrition is so much more than just the food you put in your mouth, and so we're talking a little bit about that too. And certainly, I am not an expert in any of this stuff, but what I'm an expert in is living. I've lived for a pretty long time, and I know what works and what doesn't work, and I have a tendency to look at the positive of things. But like, for example, to get back to the food end of it, yes, part of my obsessive personality has been that I've obsessed about food as well, beyond ice cream.
Yeah.
But what happens when you start to change your food habits? What happens in your body when you start to make these changes?
Well, again, everybody's body is completely different. But when I started making the changes, within the first 2 weeks of being away from gluten and dairy, I noticed a significant difference in the bloating, the brain fog, and a lot of the joint pain. So it happens pretty quickly.
I love your descriptive hands. You're great.
I
So if you are listening to this show on radio, please go back and watch it on YouTube, because you've got to see her little, the hands for the bloating and everything. It's really, really special.
I do talk with my hands.
I love it. No, it's very expressive.
Thank you.
So in general, you've made the point that everybody's body's different, and so everybody's eating habits can be different. But are there general eating habits that are better to follow for almost everybody?
I feel like I do demonize sugar a lot. I feel like everyone should be away from sugar. As much as humanly possible to get it out of their diet. Gluten is not great for us. What happens with gluten, and it's not so much the gluten itself, it's a protein binder that's in the gluten. So it mimics the brain protein. And so what happens with that is our immune system, we take in this gluten, and what happens is our immune system attacks that, but it also is attacking healthy brain cells that look like it. So if it's mimicking these brain cells, it's not just singling out the bad stuff, it's going after anything that looks like that too. So you notice we have Alzheimer's.
So gluten is our enemy?
Well, we have, and sugar. Like
Okay.
Alzheimer's is at an all-time high. ADD, ADHD is at an all-time high.
it's
All
true.
these brain issues, depression, all of these things that are going on with people mentally. And it's all in the last 20 years more so than anything, I would say. Maybe 30 years, but 20 in the last 10, you see a lot more people turning up with food allergies to gluten and grains and dairy.
What are the foods that are highest in gluten?
Gluten is hiding in everything, but obviously your breads, a lot of the cereals, flour. It's mostly flour, barley. So it's wheat, barley, rye, spelt. Most of those kind of grains have gluten.
Is there a kind of bread that you can eat?
Oh, yeah. There's tons of breads. Nowadays, it's amazing. I just found another new one today, the unbread, that is actually gluten and grain free. So it's really nice.
Does it also taste free?
I don't know. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
But I've had some gluten frees that are good. I like Canyon Bakehouse bread. It's pretty good. You still have to watch the sugars in the bread because they will try to hide them in there. But the gluten-free stuff is full of potato starch and tapioca starch and rice flours. You know what I mean? So I don't eat a lot of it. Like if I buy a loaf of that bread, it'll last me a month. I put it in the freezer and I have a piece here and there. You know what I mean? I just don't eat a lot of it. But my breads I love. My pumpkin bread, my zucchini breads, those kind of things, the dessert breads, they're fabulous.
How much time does it take to make your own bread? Or is it like a labor of love?
It's kind of a labor of love, but it doesn't take a long time. Like I'll usually make a double batch. I can get 12 small loaves probably within an hour. They take about 20 minutes to cook.
Oh, so you can
with
have
prep
it
time. Yeah, you could freeze them. They freeze well. People can find these kind of things on my Facebook page right now and eventually on the website when it's done.
So when you're completely launched, are you you have this cute little thing? I haven't even gotten to the mousse yet.
That's a non-dairy cream cheese frosting. You should
Cream cheese frosting.
Yeah,
I know
sugar.
we only have a couple minutes. I'm gonna.
Wow, time just flies right by, doesn't it?
I know it does.
You'd never know that was
No.
dairy and sugar free.
And I have been known to. I'm not a big frosting person, but cream cheese frosting is my weakness. And I've been known to just eat the cream cheese frosting off the carrot cake.
I've
Because
done that myself as well.
I don't really care about the carrot cake. I'm sorry.
Oh, I do make an amazing carrot cake.
Do you? So are you going to have some of these foods that people can buy, like a gluten-free and sugar-free bakery type thing? Or is it
No.
you're
I
just
wanna teach-
teaching people how to do them?
I'm actually looking. I would love to have a manufacturer that could help me put it together, because obviously I don't want to be working in mass quantity out of my kitchen, my home kitchen under a cottage law. You know, I really want someone to help me get the food on the shelf. Would be great. But for now, I'm teaching people how to do it. I have a TV show coming in January. I also have a podcast / videocast / radio show coming as well with a girlfriend of mine who's also an integrative health nutrition coach. So just a lot of really neat things coming to help teach people how to do these things.
As part of what you do, will you coach groups and single people one-on-one, or can you do that like through, telephone, through Zoom, or do you just mainly go and have speaking announcements type of thing?
I do speaking engagements. I will do group coaching. For me to individually coach someone, I'm extremely selective on that. They have to be very serious because time is super precious. So if they're not 100% in, I don't coach people personally.
But people can find out more. You're listening to this show and it's November, and maybe we'll play it again sometime in December because we haven't really dated it much. But you will have a podcast, radio show, TV show type thing coming in January. And meanwhile, people can go on your website, which will be up and running in the next week or so, or you can go to the Facebook page Eating with V, because I know that's there because I've already checked it out. The YouTube, the Instagram, and get information and find out about the different classes and learn how to integrate your nutrition and make yourself feel better every day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So-
And just making very small changes can make a huge difference.
And, pay attention to what you eat. Just maybe slow down, look at the stuff on the nutritional information. Don't eat all gummy vitamins.
Don't do it. Don't eat them all.
Veronica Kolobab, Kolobab has been my guest, and
Thank you.
she is with Eating with V, and we learned a lot. I appreciate you joining me today. You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We'll be back here next week with more.
Archives of the Sue Ellen Sanders Show are on YouTube. In fact, there's a whole playlist of years of this show up there already. We've been doing this for quite some time. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, home of the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, talk of the Treasure Coast, and webcaster to the world on Google Home, Alexa, and the TuneIn app on your smartphone.